The final raid specialists we introduce come from the Wrath of the Machine raid. In the Year 3 expansion, Rise of Iron, Guardians took their attention back to Earth where the Fallen have found Siva, and it's our job to take down their deity Axis. As with the previous raids, we will begin with our segment guest, I'm Not a Zoomer. I'm Not a Zoomer is a versatile Wrath player and one of the best overall players in history. Inventor of the Zoomer route and an all-time double right player, Zoomer held a handful of records from 2020 to the present day and has done so in multiple raids. Zoomer is another well-rounded player that goes in as a raid specialist due to his sheer Wrath ability. The current King's Fall record holder and a near-unanimous addition to the top 100, he joins us here today. Zoomer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, what up? It's me, I'm Not a Zoomer. Maybe you've heard of me, or maybe you played with me in LFGs or budgets. But I guess I'd call myself a D1 speedrunner. I started playing D1 back in 2017. I don't really remember much of it, but fast forward to quarantine, that's when I truly started getting into the game. I met up with an old guy. He got me into speedrunning, or he sort of introduced me to the scene. Then I wasn't really a fan of it, but there was a guy named XGN Zen, or better known as Zen Taken. Zen is Taken. He sort of taught me some strats, and that's when I got hooked onto speedrunning. Then I started looking on LFG for a bunch of posts where I could do speedrunning. I was kind of addicted. And I got into a team with Danger Bakes, Bosch, Duality, and a bunch of people like that. That's when I really started falling in love with the speedrun scene. And I started doing Wrath. Wrath was my first ever record when I was on a record team. That was my first ever raid when I was on a record team. So I started off on Split Pink, on the baby rolls, on the K rolls. I wasn't trusted as much as I was now. But over time, they sort of put me on the more difficult roles, maybe because they wanted to do the easier roles because it was more chill, or they saw potential in me. But I started doing double right. I was bad at it at first, but then after doing more research, I stumbled upon Scrubs POV on his record, and I started to imitate his double right. And that's what sort of started me on my path of perfecting double right. Over time, I just started to fall in love with Wrath, honestly. I started doing even more difficult roles like bottom skate. Then I started doing going to phase 1, wall slides, Axis phase 1 slides, then meltings. Honestly, what made me good at Wrath wasn't the fact that I was good at my roles, but it was wanting to do the more difficult roles that people didn't want to do. That's honestly what made me a Wrath player that stood above the others. And I feel like that's why I'm on this list. It's not because I was good at the game, it's because I wanted to do things that were difficult. But yeah, that's how I went from being a Split Pink newbie that wasn't trusted with any roles to being a double right, fucking pro, I guess you could call it. It was just by doing the roles that nobody else wanted to do. But yeah, that's my story.
That's probably the best intro we've had so far. Thank you, Zoomer.
Alright, you say that to everybody. Don't fucking lie to me, okay? You say that to everybody.
No. Axis Bake is an easy addition to the 100 Greatest Raiders and is one of the most unique players within it. The only perfect hybrid of solo and speedrunner, Axis Bake has held multiple raid records and became the first player to complete the solo flawless Wrath challenge. There are so many things we can discuss about him, but I really want to punch in this point right here. We think of soloing and speedrunning as a sliding scale. If you're more of one, then you are less of the other. Axis Bake is both in extreme degrees. He held world records in 3 out of the 4 raids. He was a fixture on every one of those Route Raft teams, but he's also done some incredible solo feats. First ever Vostok Phase 2 solo, soloing every possible encounter at the time of his retirement, and of course the aforementioned solo Flawless Wrath. Really, it can't be overstated just how amazing this guy is. I'll let you give it a try, Mice.
Axis bait. I mean, he found box, I think, right? He found box.
I think he found box, yeah, but that the biggest I'll point out the biggest narrative point that we have with Axis Bake is that he's probably the greatest Wrath player, but also he's the only perfect hybrid of solo and speedrunner. He's the only S tier speedrunner and S tier solo player. Maybe not S tier speedrunner, but the only one who's really good at both.
Yeah. Axis bait. I mean, yeah, like you said, he was perfect hybrid of speedrunning and solos. I was streaming one time on a solo Axis, and he actually came into my stream and pretty much walked me through how to solo Axis, and that was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, me and him, like, we were talking for like 30 minutes of just like life stuff. So, yeah, like he was able to pretty much walk me through how to solo Axis in a Twitch chat. So I mean, like I would always, the first videos of Destiny speedrunning I've seen was him on Wrath, and it would just be like crazy POVs. He wasn't a very good skater, but I mean,
he did not have pretty skating, no, but everything else was great.
Yeah, his skating made up for it for sure, or not his skating, his skill made up for it for sure. I mean, yeah, I didn't play with him, but from what I've seen and heard, he's definitely probably one of, if not the best Wrath player, like as a raid, for sure.
Zoomer, what about you on Axis Big?
So Axis, I don't really have a close relationship to him, but I did know of him. Honestly, back in 2020, it'd be hard to find any speedrunner that didn't know of Axis. He was sort of the face of Wrath. A lot of things he did, I took inspiration of, except for his solos. I'm not a solo player, but his Axis Phase 1, 2, his box, I took inspiration from a lot of it. Overall, Axis is a very, very solid Wrath player who pioneered almost all of Wrath as it is now. A very good player.
All in well?
Louis Beast mode was a fucking inspiration to basically everybody playing at the time. And it's kind of, when you look at Louis' channel and the stuff he was doing, and then you look at solo fucking content creators now and speedrunners now, and you compare, you can really see like at what point the community started to change the way they played. Do you know what I mean? It's like a split the Destiny timeline kind of post and free Axis Bake, honestly. He was like, back in his day, he was the most popular dude on the game. People started fucking naming themselves after the dude.
Now that we have discussed the Wrath Goat, let's move on to the newest 100 member, Boki. Boki is a two-time record holder in both Wrath and Crota, and holder for the title of the fastest initial hit at a scorching 11 seconds. Let's talk about him now.
Me and Boki are boys. I mean, I'll go to the grave saying he's the best initial.
That is not a hot take. He has had an 11-second initial before.
Yeah, people kind of go back and forth between Grandpa being the best initial and Boki. I would say Boki, without a doubt. You know, like, I would see this guy move, and it would be, like, I didn't even know a Titan can move that way, like, honestly.
And he doesn't need sword ammo either. He'll do it with a sword hilt out and still get, sub 14 times.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, he would get 16s and be like, that's so shit. And, like...
Dude, we are now still on record pace. What?
Yeah, like, I don't know. That guy was... personally, I don't even think anybody comes close to him. Like, I'm kind of dick-sucking right now, but that guy is so fucking good at initial. It's crazy. Unfortunately, his mentality kind of restricted him towards getting better at, like, Wrath as a whole. I mean, he had pretty good engine skates, or not engine skates, what did he do? Warhead? I don't remember what he did, but he had pretty good part skates. He did meltings on Axis. That was pretty good. He was a pretty good meltings player, but I mean, he put pretty much all of his skill points in initial. Um, Overall, he was a pretty good Wrath player, but I will go to the grave saying that he is the best initial player, not even close.
Zoomer, what about you on Boki?
He was not good at all when I first met him. He was just, I mean, nobody, to clarify, nobody ever starts off good, but this guy, he had the biggest ego. Man, he was just a twerp. But it's good to see him doing well now. I'm not surprised that he's one of the best Wrath players. When it came to initial, honestly, I think he's best. It's a tie between him and Grandpa. I haven't run a lot with Boki, but I think he's definitely the best initial I've ever ran with. He's very good at Wrath now. And I respect where he's come from.
Teammates with Axis Bake multiple times, we have the next Wrath player to introduce, SS Scrub. Maybe the most naturally talented raider the game has ever seen, Scrub is the inventor of the Thermite and Song Axis strategy and noted as one of the most consistent speedrunners of his generation. A very fast learner, he was unanimously voted into the 100 greatest raiders. So, we all know the story with him since his retirement from the game. However, when the voting process was going on, I heavily stressed on voting on the player, not the person. So we're just going to be talking about Destiny for a bit. And as we discuss the player, Scrub, there'll be a whole lot of good things we can remark about. I think you, All on Wall, have some things we can discuss.
Scrub was an interesting dude. He only ever ran when he felt like it. And when he did feel like it, he was basically able to watch a video of a strat and then replicate it perfectly in the next 5 minutes. He was doing basically all the hard jobs and all the raids he was in. And then he went to D2 and started doing it some more. So you could say a lot of things about the man, but you can't say he's bad at Destiny.
Scrub, he's a lot like a few of the people on this list, like Axis. Back when I first started playing Wrath and I was making a name for myself, I never actually played with Scrub. I just heard of him. And I know him best for his double right, because like I said, I took inspiration off of him. He's a solid player, and he pioneered. Definitely a good player on Wrath. Not surprised he's on this list as well.
Let's get some more 2020 route runners, beginning with Grandpa 717. The youngest elite player in history and elite Axis damaging talent from 2018 to 2021. Cooper was one of the most versatile Wrath players for an entire generation and certainly goes down as one of the most talented raiders of all time. A regular in his Wrath teams and one of the best Warlocks in the game, Ionix was an easy addition for this list. Ionix has held more than 10 world records, the vast majority of which from Wrath of the Machine, and a handful coming alongside Ben Topi. Ben is a 2-time record holder, elite Axis damager, and a phenomenal Warlock Titan combo. He is also one of the most underrated Kingsfall players and is now one of the 100 greatest raiders of all time. All in all, we will begin these three with you.
Grandpa and me go back a long way. Back in 2018-19, we would come home after school and stay up all night on the game, skating around the Cosmodrome for zero reason or purpose. And those were some of my best memories. But as far as Wrath goes, this dude did so much for the raid. Fucking the skip after Siege was named after him for a long time, even though he didn't find it, just because people thought he was good. And
Wait, Grandpa Skip wasn't made by Grandpa?
it was I think it might have actually been some sort of self-aware joke. I'm not really positive, but that shit was not. I'm pretty sure PS4's found that. But like, what he did find, like me and him were both there when we found 4-2, found Gorgon Skip, and all kinds of shit. We mapped the goddamn patrol load zones basically. When he played He was one of the most interesting dudes to talk to and one of the best.
Zoomer, what do you want to add on for Grandpa?
So, Grandpa, man, big old Coop Watt, the big Coop. Fucking, when I first met Grandpa, I don't know, I was nervous. He had me shaking in my boots. But I guess I warmed up to him and he warmed up to me. When I first met him, he was reluctant about running with me because he's never heard it. He never heard about me before then. I was just a budget that they got. And honestly, rightly so, I was just a nobody. But he was the best initial I've ever ran with. Second only to Boki, actually. But he was a very good player. He could do all the roles perfectly, but he was humble as well. So he only stuck to his initial. He only did what nobody else wanted to do. He's a nice person, a very good player at Wrath, and again another pioneer just like Axis Bacon them. Big old Koopwat.
Mice?
Grandpa is a very good Wrath player. He, like, that guy was my first impression of Grandpa. I don't know if this is true or not, but because there was a lot of rumors about him back in the day. but-
There were.
Yeah. Somebody told me that like he would take Adderall before running, so his skates were crazy. I don't know how true that is or not, but
I'm gonna
remember,
take the under on that one because I remember from Atomic saying that when he was 13, he was a 17 CPS skater. Unless he was doing Adderall back then, but I don't think so. I think he just is that fast.
yeah, maybe that was like a joke between the Destiny community, but it was funny. Like the rumors about him, One High Chance would always make rumors about him, like how he went to jail and stuff. He never went to jail. Grandpa, he came back, got Wrath record first try, then dipped again. Like to be able to do that, it's a feat that not a lot of people can do. Be put on like initial or something, and we get it literally first try, and then we try to run it back, and he'd be like, "Nah, get Boki." And we're like, "All right." But he's a really cool guy. I talked with him for a little bit. Really, really cool guy. Very, very good. There's not one time where I've seen him fuck up. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm gonna actually like back that up. Yeah, I haven't played with him nearly as much because I was never in Wrath record runs. But like times that I would do, you know, those 2020 budgets with Bosch and Grandpa and Danger, Grandpa like I don't think I've ever seen him mess up, and he would be doing all over the place. You know, initial, mid, double right. Occasionally, I did 4-2 with him once, and oh my god, he has that optimized too.
Yeah.
That is, it is not easy watching him go that far ahead of you. I'll tell you that.
Ionix, he was my first impression of Wrath Warlock. I kind of would watch him on his videos, and I'd be like, so that's what you're supposed to do? Like, all of my reference videos were him doing Warlock. Me and him never talked or played together, but, I mean, the only thing I can really say on him is that, like, he was good enough for me to look up to him when it came to Warlock. I know he was a pretty good Titan player too, but as a personal opinion, I think he was one of the best Warlocks when it came to Wrath, for sure.
Yeah, I'll back your narrative up there, Mice, about how Ionix is like this all-time great Warlock, which I think he is. I think, you know, if there's any Warlocks better than him, it's certainly a single-digit number. Watching him, he had so many of these fundamentals. He was never the star of his team because he's a much more reserved person, especially, you know, because he was running a lot with Grandpa when they would do that. And then when, you know, the next person we're going to talk about had a couple runs with him. But I think, yeah, fantastic overall player. Could have conceivably gone well-rounded, but far too many of his records are in Wrath to just not call him an all-time Wrath legend and leave it at that. But then we have, you know, the last person we have here, Ben Topi, one of my favorite human beings ever. I have so much respect for this guy. I've watched him play for a very long time before he got into record speedrunning, after he's, stopped doing raids altogether pretty much. And I think he's an underrated King's Fall player. But it's like watching his skating routes are just like so much better than everyone else's. Like if he were to join an NMG Wrath team, like he's going to be the ace of the team without question, because his transitions without breaching are just so much better than everyone else's that I've ever seen. In I have 1,000 Wrath clears, and I know clears isn't everything, but you see a lot of Wrath gameplay in that time, and his is some of the best. Very happy to see that he's made top 100. Usma was one of the main Warlock guys at the turn of the decade. Held multiple world records with the route runners of his day, and we induct him alongside Reaver 7755. Reaver optimized many of the breach routes we still use today, most of which from Wrath and Crota. Reaver is a multiple-time record holder, achieving the first sub-15 Wrath of the Machine, and discovered the modern part glitch techniques we use today.
Uzma got his start actually in year 1 running Crota solo, and he came full circle and joined us for the sub 8 and runs preceding that. And he also ran with us briefly on 360. So pretty fucking fire at Crota's end. Reaver, founder of the part glitch. That was a fucking historic event. He was known for going into Xbox parties and using a botnet or whatever to just kick every single person out of the party for zero reason and then leaving. That was pretty cool of him. I jest, but like he actually did some pretty interesting shit. Like, okay, this isn't in D1, but in D2, at one point he was doing like hacked speedruns. Those were pretty funny. I don't know, cool dude.
Anything else on Reaver, or?
Not really. From when he started playing, when he stopped, he was just racking up those Wrath records. Knew a lot of good people.
We've discussed the route runners, so let's talk about two of the best Goon Squad runners to date, and we can begin with Corey. Corey is one of the best Axis damagers to ever play the game, top scoring in any lobby he wants to, and displays a versatile King's Fall resume with the current 1929 record. He is a top 100 raider of all time, and so is Atromix. Atromix, however you know him, ran with both Fellwinter and the Brits at the start of the decade, running every raid in the game. These are two elite players that I'd like to start some discussion on. Corey and I actually go way back, and he has been an Axis Phase 2 legend from day one. Corey, his friend Audibly, and myself used to do 390 Axis challenge carries way back when we both started out. I had been doing budgets and making a name for myself for a few months at this point, and for whatever reason, I just could not outdamage him. I couldn't figure out, and then he would stream his gameplay, and then I'd see, yeah, this guy has everything down. The sequencing, the positioning, the routes, the thermite placement, every aspect to the Axis Perfection Complex, he has it down. Zoomer, how about you on Corey?
There's a lot I could say. Fuck it, I'll just say it. Corey, I made that kid. Let it be fucking known here, I made that kid, okay? I picked him up from budgets. Hey, no ego. Okay, I'm just being completely transparent here. I picked him up from budgets, little twerp, just like Boki. Okay, I put him on the pink. I taught him the strats, and honestly, he just became a god. I guess he was. All right, whoa. He was not a god. Okay, let me just backtrack on that. Hey, he became something close to what I am. He got good on the pink. Then when everybody else started to get burnt out from the game, he took up the reins. I respect that. I respect him for that. He did what nobody else wanted to do. He hopped on the right. He hopped on whatever he needed to do. He learned, and he just sort of became a good player. Honestly, I'd call him one of the best current players playing right now. And I respect him for his beginnings and working his way all the way up here. through all the hardship. Honestly, an overall very good Wrath player, one of the best Wrath players existing right now.
Corey. Oh shit. Okay, yeah. Corey's my boy. Corey is my favorite person of all time. Um, like I said, I'll go to the grave with him being best double right. Um, there was not a single role besides maybe Warlock that he couldn't do. Um, he knew Wrath like the back of his hand. Me and Corey would always fight over who's a better double right, and I would just kind of press him over it because I know he would get annoyed. But I knew for a fact that he was way above me when it came to double right. Nobody came close to him. Um, I mean, yeah, he taught me everything I know about box. He taught me everything I know about like outside. Um, he's the best outside player without a doubt. Very, very good right combo. Very, very good left combo. Pretty good initial, decent initial, good enough to run it on record. Um, I would never run a Wrath a record like seriously without him for sure. Um, I mean, yeah, Corey overall he's a pretty good player. He just started picking up King's Fall recently. I mean, he's very, very good at that. If he wanted to do something in any of the raids, he probably could. Um, it's just he doesn't really give a fuck.
He
He's
just
also
likes
been
Wrath
playing
more.
Yeah, that too. And he's been playing for a long time as well. So, and Tromix, he was a big inspiration for me. He came back recently, or not recently, but like he came back a little bit ago, and me and him got to be good friends. And then he kind of had this god complex, but I'm not gonna go into that very much. But I mean, he was a decent player. I mean, he messed up here and there, but I mean, he was a decent Wrath player. I know in his prime he was very good. Um, I mean, yeah, that's really all I can say about him. Very good mission runner too.
Atromix has a pretty unique thing to him, and that is that his way of going about doing the glitches and general movement is without question the easiest way to teach and replicate. Way back when I was trying to get into speedrunning, I'm trying to do the 4-2 route myself, and the reference points that he used were way easier for me to get a handle on than anything else. And to this day, 4-2 breaches, part glitch, so many other little Wrath details I use are made by him. Zoomer, what about you on Atromix?
Oh yeah, Atromix as well. Atromix, I haven't played with him recently, but I wouldn't be surprised if he became one of the best. What was holding him back the most was his lag. He had the fundamentals down. He could do Axis. He was one of the best Axis damagers in the world at the time. He could do the raid, just that his ego held him back and his lag kind of made it so that we couldn't run the raid with him. But yeah, overall good player. I'm not surprised he's on this list as well.
V Synergy was voted in to be a Wrath player, and for good reason. Synergy is a 3-time record holder in Wrath of the Machine, and no PlayStation Wrath team with record aspirations is complete without him. The same could be said of his fellow runner, who is Frankie. Frankie is a 6-time record holder and considered one of, if not the best Wrath player in today's game. Just like Synergy, Frankie registers in as an irreplaceable part in PlayStation Wrath records. Joining these two is Matt Reese Gaming. Matt is a 3-time world record holder and was another part of the legendary 1331 Wrath record. His part in the top 100 wasn't a question. Let's go to you first, Mice.
Frankie and Matt are like best buds. Frankie, I'd say he's top 5 best Wrath players. A lot of people say he's top 1. I don't know how true that is. I mean, he was good, but he was never like fast at anything. His boxes were kind of unreliable. Very cool guy, very good at the raid for sure, without a doubt. It's just like he would do everything consistent enough. I mean, for a long time, he had all the sub 14s until Xbox kind of like picked it up again. But I mean, he was just an insane player for sure at Wrath. Matt's a funny fucking guy. Matt, I love Matt. He's a really good Warlock player. He's a really good Tine player as well. But he just kind of didn't really care enough, and he just kind of hung out. And he would always make these like witty comments whenever we'd run, and he would just like keep the vibes up. Um, really cool guy. I'd say he's probably the best. Actually, I'd say he's probably the second best PlayStation Warlock player.
And then I think when it comes to synergy, I've seen a couple of record POVs. I'm sure one of them I've decided to put on screen at the time, and it's there. He has some pleasing gameplay. It's like, I know his transitions, those can be like really aesthetically good. He's never looked like he has the fastest of things like bottom skate and stuff like that, but I think in terms of like general Wrath ability and like total body of work that you can do within a Wrath speedrun, I think synergy is like, you know, actually pretty high up there in terms of like all-time Wrath greats. No surprise he's here. Very glad to see these three PlayStation guys in. Owner of a 1 hour, 6 minute time, and 650 Wrath clears, MK1 is on this list. A 3-time raid record holder and the first person to monopolize low man axis kill challenges. Though he is mostly remembered by his accolades in history and mission speedruns, MK is also one of the greatest raiders of all time. The all-time leader in full Wrath clears, Sepia Cash 28754, is maybe the greatest Wrath player ever. A very talented solo player, Sepia is the first person to find a consistent setup for many modern techniques used in everyday Wrath completions, notably the first consistent diagonals axis phase 1 hit. A great guy, he is now one of the greatest raiders of all time.
MK, fucking whatever gamer tag he goes by now. I mostly know him for sitting in my parties while I'm running Wrath with the team. He sat in more parties than actually ran the raid, as I know of. But what he's most known for on Wrath is the stair slide. He did, I wouldn't say create, but he did discover that you could save a total of 7 seconds on that slide. A big discovery from him. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what made him be put on this fucking list.
What about you on MK Mice?
I ran with him for a little bit. I remember him being good at like Wrath speedruns, and then he went to mission runs. I didn't play with him during his prime, but he did come back and he was doing stair slide, and everyone was joking about him missing it, which was pretty funny. MK's a cool guy. He wasn't very like bad at really anything. He was just like decent. When I played with him, he was like decent at pretty much everything. And everybody was like, this isn't even his prime. Like in his prime, he was a very good Wrath player. So yeah.
And now the last player in our Wrath segment, Sepia Cash. Keep us going, Mice.
Sepia, me and him, we would just kind of, I was never really friends with him, but me and him would like run into each other on LFGs. Like I said, I was friends with Saucy, he and Sepia Cash and Sauce were like best buddies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they would always like clear farm, and I would help them like do 390 challenge carries, and you know, Sepia was just a cool guy to hang out with. Very good Axis player for sure. He would always outbake everybody. You know, phase 1 he was very good at. I mean, yeah, like just when it comes to Axis, that guy definitely has it down for sure.
I like to teach the world to sing with me.